Little flashing needs to be the little flashing right here of X needs to be near their intersection. There's only one intersection. It's not going to be an issue. Just hit enter. So it's just enter, 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 and voila. It tells me those two lines intersect at 7.1875 and 86.4. Did you get there? Okay. Um, so that means in week 7.85, should we call that week 7 or 8? They sell approximately how many shoes? So in week 7 or 8, they sell approximately the same number of pairs of shoes. Okay. Now, should we write down the calculator commands? And write down the calculator commands? Okay. Let's do that. First thing we did to do this problem was we put our data in list 1, list 2, and list 3. Okay? Do I need to remind you what the calculator strokes are to do that? Okay. So that's stat number 1, edit. And then you hit enter. Okay? After we put our data in those lists, we ran a linear regression for ed. So regression line for ed, the buttons we pushed were stat, then you arrowed right to calc, then you chose number 4, linreg. And then when it got to the page where it was doing the linreg, it said linreg, and you had to type in L1, comma L2. Second 1, comma second 2. So you had to type in those. Oops, 2 arguments it's called. Okay. Then we did the regression line for Joe, which was the same stat, arrow over to calc. I should have just copied this down for linreg. But when that linreg came up, we did L1, comma L3. Okay. Then we entered the data as a function. So that means we went to the y equals button. You hit that one. And then you typed in your equations. Okay. The next thing we did was we tried to graph, and we didn't get a decent graph, so we had to set our window. So you type that window button, and then we set our x min and our x max and our x scale. We set the min at 0, the max at some number bigger than 4. We set it at 10, and a scale of 1. The y min we set at 0. The y max, we had to choose some number bigger than the 40s, 50s, 60s where the sales was. You start playing with numbers for these maxes until you see both graphs on the screen. So we chose 100, but these two, when you're doing these problems on your own, these are the two numbers that you're going to have to play with on the maxes, and until you get, and then you hit the graph button and change those values, edit those values a little bit until you actually see the two lines intersect. And the Y scale we set to 10, but it doesn't really matter what you set the Y scale at. All right, so I'm going to say we're going to set the maxes until we see both graphs intersect when we hit the graph button. Yes, sir. You can yeah, you can do Y scale 0. It'll put no tick marks. Yeah, good idea. Okay. Then once we got the window, we hit the graph button again. And then we went to find the intersection. And that's the last thing we do. So to find the intersection, we hit the second key. We hit the trace key, whose second is calc. We hit number 5, intersect, or intersection, or whatever it is. And then you hit enter 3 times. Yeah. I'm there. Oops. Enter, enter, enter. Okay. Why am I not putting H's on the word graph? Okay. Do you need me to go up a little further? We have our windows. Play with the maxes. When you do your homework problems, you have to play with those maxes. Okay. I'll go on to our next topic if we're ready. Enter, enter, enter. Okay. All right. Our next topic is independent systems, dependent systems, or inconsistent systems. Okay. So independent systems are the lines that intersect one time. Okay, they're like your two intersecting lines. There's one place where they intersect. There's one solution. Dependent systems are systems that have more than one solution. They have an infinite number solution. The two lines, when you went to graph them, they'd end up being the same line. Inconsistent systems are lines that don't intersect, lines that are parallel. There's no intersection between the two curves that we entered, and you can identify an inconsistent system by the slope. Okay, so let's see how we could just take some system and figure out whether it's independent, dependent, or inconsistent. So first, I try to put these two equations in the same form. So y equals 3x plus 2. I think I'll put the second equation also in y equals. So I think I'll add 6x to both sides and get 2y equals 6x plus 4. I'll divide both sides by 2. And get, have you written down the words yet? Hopefully for the first one. And get y 6 divided by 2 is 3, so that's 3x plus 2. These two lines have the same slope. Are they dependent, inconsistent, or independent?